Welcome back. In the previous video, we started answering a question we often hear from consultants and certifiers, which is what are the main things to check when auditing a site? We will now go through some of the features you might want to check on an occupant warning system. Once again, this is not a complete list, and you should familiarize yourself with any relevant standard that might apply to each project. Part 2. Occupant warning. If the system uses an amplifier, please ensure that this is compliant to 4428.16. Remember, this standard is now mandatory. If the system uses an amplifier, please ensure that all the speakers comply with 724.24. However, under 1670 Part 1, you don't need to necessarily use an amplifier and loudspeakers. This is because live speech is not mandatory. In fact, you can use sounders, which generally only produce a tone. In this case, you will need to ensure that sounders are certified to 7240.3. If the sounders are loop-driven and share the cabling with detectors, you must ensure that the installer has used a short-circuit isolator every 40 devices. Do you have separate circuits for each evacuation zone? In basic terms, are there splitters in the panel? We have seen cases where splitters have been used, but then the cables have been joined right above the ceiling space in order to save cost and have a single line for the whole site. While on site, you can ask the contractor to unplug a few zones to see if the fault reports correctly. Also, please ensure that evacuation zones are correctly established. For example, a single zone should not encompass more than a single floor and should not be more than 2,000 square meters. Under Amendment 1, this requirement can be relaxed for car parks and warehouses, and it can extend to 4,000 square meters. Ensure that the sound pressure level from the system is at least 75 decibels and that it exceeds the ambient noise by 10 decibels. If the background noise is above 85 decibels, you will also require visual alarm devices. Each one will require a label that says "Evacuate." Please remember that this label is only used for occupant warning systems and that the visual alarm devices used in conjunction with an EWIS require a different label which says "Fire." Also, ensure that the microphone does not have priority over the tone generator. Alternatively, you will have to ensure intelligibility is achieved through the building. To sum up, you should remember to check. The amplifier, if in use, must be compliant to 4428.16. The speakers used are compliant to 7240.24 and the sounders are compliant to AS 7240.3. There's a separate circuit for each evacuation zone and the cable is fire rated to the first speaker. The sound pressure level is correct and the microphone is not set up as an emergency microphone. In the next videos, we will go through some of the features to check for EWIS.